My next guest is a dear friend, and he is right in the middle of all of this. Please welcome Philippe Krakowsky, who is the CEO of the Interpublic Group. You could try it. Oh, right, well done. You could sit either. No, I'll sit here, you sit there. That's all good. Hey there.
Hi.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, you know, it's smarter than we are, so why don't we ask it?
You know, I've tried that, and every time I do one of those like Ask AI things, you know, where you say, okay, ChatGPT, I'm going to interview XYZ, and, you know, what should I ask? And you get this generic list of amazing questions that you've heard at every trade show ever, because obviously it pattern matched to every trade show ever. So, but it doesn't ever say, how are you?
Not yet. Again, it doesn't do the human being things. It does everything else pretty darn well, though.
So every part of workflow and process of the whole business is under threat of change, which is no different from any other time. It just feels like it's coming faster. Yes, no?
Depends where in our business. So when I look at you know, folks I know who we've worked in the past, we work together as it is. There are parts of our business, I would say, and parts of marketing in general, where you've had a ton of, you know, data flowing through your media business. We obviously have a very large data business inside of our group. So where you've been doing pattern matching, predictive work against, you know, kind of big data sets, and you're trying to get more precise. I think we've been using AI in the business. I think the place where it's super disruptive and everybody's scratching their heads and freaking out, understandably so, is on how does Gen AI on the content side of the business, and you know, what does it mean for creativity? I brought a couple of things to share that, you know, might help frame out how we're thinking about it. But yeah, you get back, you ask the question. Everybody hates it at my place. You know, written work gets edited to within an end, you know, like edge of its life. So it is like you get a decent sophomore college essay on anything you want, right?
And no better. That's the whole point.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, look, I guess if I think about what all the folks in this room have to work with, and just the amount of, you know, we were just seeing something where you kind of go, like, what is it good enough for now that we all need to generate? So we need to generate massive amounts of content. So the fact that you get efficiency and speed for a lot of kind of in that pyramid of content that we all need, would we hand it our brand? Not yet. Would we hand it, you know, campaign that's going to differentiate us from the competitors, or a Super Bowl spot? Not yet. But we do a lot of a couple of things with it. I mean, we do a lot of ideation with it. So we were already incorporating it across the group in, I guess, you know, kind of creating more and better hypotheses. So getting maybe more surface area of ideas into play very, very quickly, so that then creative teams who are expert can triage those and get to solutions faster. So I'd say that's a way we've incorporated it into our work. A second way that we're incorporating it into the work, and it's such a weird room because I feel like I don't want anybody here to feel like they're not getting, is I'd say it raises the floor on a lot of what we do. And so you can definitely distribute creativity or democratize creativity. So I brought an example. You know, I could actually speak Spanish without, many languages I couldn't, but I'm thinking back to the guys who were just up here. But I'm originally from Mexico. And so this is actually a piece of work that our colleagues in Mexico did for our largest client in that market. And, you know, in thinking about how do you use the tool to democratize creativity and or distribute it to folks who are in your ecosystem, your teams, if you're in a franchisee model, some of those folks. So if we could run that initial video, I think it just might be helpful for folks to see an application of it.
Had you seen the video, what you would have seen was
Oh, wow.
Carol Merrill standing behind door number 2.
Had you seen the video, you would have seen us using generative AI to empower a group of, so the largest baked goods company in the world is based in Mexico. And a thing very few people would know is that Mexico is the #2 market in the world for what you would think is an American food product, for a hamburger or a hot dog. There are tons and tons of small vendors across the country who buy the bread product from this client of ours. And what we actually did is we created a studio so that they could brand their own very, very small single or 2 location venues, kind of at a level that would have been equivalent to what you see, at sort of high level design work that you would expect from much more sophisticated, much larger organizations. But it's kind of weak compared to what you would have seen.
Yeah. So no. Well, look. At the end of the day, that's the magic here, right? The ability to empower small and medium businesses, and it leads me to a kind of an important topic. You look at a company like Facebook, Meta. They have like 7 million clients. Making up a number. It's a number like that. It's a giant number of clients. And it's for the most part self-serve, right? You get a 14-year-old who can play a video game, they're going to be able to just load up Facebook with your ad. Traditional legacy media companies, if they have 1,000 clients, they're lucky, and mostly they have 50 that they care about that are most of the volume. For years, the ability to customize anything, anywhere, was a function of your non-working media budget and just what you were willing to pay. Like, what were you willing to do, and how are you going to model that out? I think the balance of power now gets a little bit messed with, right? Because you can make an awful lot of things happen that you couldn't make happen before. Economically, that's a big shift, both for the SMBs coming up and also for big co's being able to do more with what they have. How do you see that sort of shaking out now?
I guess it depends at what level, right? Because if you're sort of thinking about either a playing field that levels out, or, in our space, there's a huge market of companies that would not previously have hired a fill in the blank. An Ogilvy, a McCann would never have really had the capacity to play, at a certain level or to engage with us. So we think about, can we productize some of our offerings and make it available in that way? Clearly, again, back to what I was talking about a little while ago when it comes to audiences, modeling work that lets you get really precise with your marketing, all of that becomes, much more readily available. I think a question that, we ask ourselves, that I'm sure everybody in the room is, so it learns what you said a minute ago. It'll know more in 20 minutes than it did. It learns a lot of stuff that I do think, as marketers, we have to get our heads around. So, it learns biases. It learns inaccurate facts. We had an interesting experience not long ago in Canada with an organization. It's a for-profit that basically curates travel experiences for people of color. They hired us to do the kind of work we do for them. And I don't know if we were using, Midjourney, who we were using, but we started to create a digital campaign that was going to, in essence, use AI to both come up with a set of itineraries and then bring to life what trips abroad would look like for folks who, and in the process of testing it, what we tended to find was that it was doing a lot of things that do reflect some of the challenges with the technology. So it was projecting the folks who we wanted to be in the campaign and putting them in the background and circumstances that were subservient to other folks. It was lightening people's skin. It was doing a lot of stuff, which we were taking advantage of all the things you just said, getting super efficient and using the tech in ways that were very innovative. And then it actually turned into we pivoted and have created an app with that client that puts the power into their users' hands to actually call out all the places where there is bias in the data set that we use to train it, right? So, I mean, I think just from the point of view of, getting your head around how many places folks are going to need engagement or.
The biases, I in my opening remarks this morning, I showed a slide that you wouldn't think was a bias slide until you understood how it was crafted out in Midjourney, and ultimately,
Yep.
The model has a very strict set of understandings about the universe it lives in. And what happens, as you know, Dave Kenny pointed out that GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and the pre-trained part tells you immediately that it's ripe to be fine-tuned. It will be fine-tuned in order to be functional. Now, of course, when you fine-tune it, you're fixing one thing. You don't know what you're breaking. You have no idea.
Well, look, I mean, if to your point, you go training, you go fine-tuning, then you go emergent, any kind of emergent skill set, and you don't really know where it's going to go. So we all hear, as again, brand owners, hallucinations, not a good outcome. But I think about it and I go, social media got us to where you can distribute information insanely fast at a very low cost. And now, again, without guardrails, GPT becomes, you can generate misinformation at an incredibly low cost very, very quickly as well.
Absolutely.
So when you then think about, again, the risk that we all manage, given that the trust can't be broken with the folks whose relationships
Well, look,
value.
This is the most important point, right? And the way I normally characterize it is that whatever every one of you, think social media did to media, like whatever you think that is, and you keep your own counsel on it, it's what social production is going to do to production. And there's no way to stop it. So you can not use it, but at the end of the day, I don't know that you're going to be able to stop the allure of someone who has no skills to produce anything, to be able to say, do this, and it happens. It's like magic. It may not be good magic, it may be dark magic. And so we're going to live in that world for sure. As a brand marketer, it's not the best place to live because you can't trust your brand to that. But then what I think we're seeing, I'm going to get the audio for this slide I put up this morning. Kawaja made a meme of me where he cloned my voice, probably at 11 Labs. I didn't ask him. And I liked it because it was cute. It was Terry doing his thing. But what if I didn't like it?
What if he didn't care?
Well, he probably doesn't care. That's another thing. I'll not throw him off a boat and can, but that's not the point. The point is that if I didn't like it, I'd have no recourse. It's out there, and there's nothing I can do to call it back. Like it's in the ether forever. So as a brand, there's a little bit of a danger that consumers take their brand into their own hands in a social production world and have their way with it, unless you give them great tools that would empower them to do something good for you.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because it's kind of like the constraints that we've got when it comes to, we say we want ethically sourced data. We say, there's lots of things that in an ideal world we should be using as guardrails and/or kind of feeding into whatever work it is that we do together. In this realm, it's going to be a lot of the same things. When it comes to, we're going to run out of quality text data that the models can train on by the end of next year. So I think a place you can come from as a marketer that is powerful is your own data and a way to end up with sort of large language models that are, or instances that are custom to you. Because to your point, I guess, if I think about it as not as GPT in that sense, but it's kind of a general purpose technology. And so we're in that place of, we've got a lot of point solutions right now, we're starting to come up with applications, but we're not really thinking about it in a systems way, and that's going to be, a challenge. I talk to smaller marketers; they're very willing to kind of push further out on the continuum. Very, very large marketers are not sure they want to put trust at risk. And so, for example, a lot of very large, companies are in the, we won't put into the ecosystem anything that involves AI generating an image of a human being, right? And from a, is that authentic and can consumers trust you? It's not a bad premise. I mean, you may end up with only 3 pillars that you're going to have to be clear on, but everything else is going to
Is that how the
up in
is
the
that
air.
how the role of the agency evolves over time? It's to put the guardrails up, give the clients the tools they need to take the state of the art to where it can go, and sort of set that boundary for the larger clients. Is that where that goes?
Well, look, I mean, the example I gave a minute ago was really interesting, right? Where somebody said, "We're good. We just want a lot of mid quality content. We want to push it out exclusively on a digital platform." And what that turned into was we actually need to engage all of our consumers in helping to make it so that when the models train, the way it derailed. So that became a consulting project. We do a lot of training with clients. We do a reasonable amount of just sort of helping them keep an eye out for where and when there's abuse of the technology. The other video that I can't show you is interesting because it actually also becomes a tool. I mean, we do get this really interesting hybrid creativity that is just starting to emerge. But you might have seen, so this one I'll also kind of fail. I'm also not a lefty, but there's a spot we did, which is actually sort of a mixed reality thing, but with our clients at ABI, which was McEnroe versus McEnroe. So the idea was, what if John McEnroe, in his current, whatever, he's older than I am, but so say he's in his 60s, say he's got a bad back, but we created a mixed reality experience in which he plays a version of himself, which we created by using AI to analyze every match he played in, when he was an active player, a pro, not a senior, and then using motion capture, and then using robots, and then actually physically creating a court on which there was a human being, and then there was a virtual entity powered by AI. And that, became a social phenomenon of in its own right, right?
Absolutely.
So I think you're also going to get ways in which it unlocks, creativity that's currently not available to us.
When I think about where we are and where we're going, it's easy to see a world where you can project your own creative abilities on everyone, saying, well, then everyone will be able to do this. But in my experience, and I have to credit Fred Seibert, who a lot of people in this room may know that name, Fred of Frederator. Actually, he got a start in this building as he was one of the originators of Nickelodeon. And when High 8 cameras came out, I don't know if this group remembers High 8 cameras, it was videotape, it was the first closest thing to a professional video experience you could get from a handy cam, basically. And I was on a stage like this, and I was opining, I was pontificating, I was just spewing my knowledge and wisdom about how amazing this capability was going to be in the hands of the average consumer. I was sure we were going to see, network quality television being made by every human being in the whole world. And Fred, pretty much sitting where you're sitting, said, Shelly, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot. And he went on to say, you're projecting. The fact that you went to film school and all that, like, you know how to make video. Nobody, it doesn't matter. You still need a script, sets, lights, an actor, hair, makeup. Oh, and by the way, a decent story. Like, shut up, you're a moron. And I was like a little insulted at the time, to tell you the truth. I was a lot insulted. And I was also really sad because I thought in the minute he said it, I was like, what if he's right? Like, maybe Fred's right. And it turns out he was 100% right. Like nothing happened. People made nice home videos. That's what they made. And so now I'm wondering, like, we're all excited about all the stuff we're going to do with AI, except this time maybe we will, but maybe we won't. Maybe I'm projecting. Discuss.
Discuss. Well, I mean, like photography doesn't kill painting, right? I mean, we get to a point where the tech allows you to kind of achieve a level of perfection that doesn't necessarily mean that from understanding the, I would think a lot of what goes into storytelling are things about human beings that don't necessarily come from a place where just being able to do amazing predictions is going to get you the right inputs, right? So you think about kind of where we are, whatever it is, 7 years-ish into this new approach to AI. You know, Shelly knows that before I got into the line of work I'm in, I ran an AI company in the 1980s, a long, long time ago. So like the ideas have been the same for a long time. The processing power now exists and the data sets now exist.
Yep.
And you're still basically just doing, you know, predictions against words and predictions against patterns inside of how we make, you know, kind of how we read and put together written and now, you know, images notwithstanding. But I guess my take on the question is, the better the data you have, the better AI works. And it gives you the opportunity to take data that you know and then use it to, in essence, get a peek around the corner at data that you would like to know or that has value to you no matter what business you're in. The contrarian part of what creativity is about, the part that kind of comes from, you know, whether it's human emotions, whether it's, you know, things that haven't necessarily gone as they should. I mean, very, very few, you know, I'm not buying that we're entirely out of business as storytellers yet.
Well, I think that is a drop the mic moment from a we're not out of business as storytellers. I never, for once in all of this, I've never thought that we were going to be out of business as storytellers.
Except when, you know, somebody came out with a Super 8 and you were sure that...
Well, you know, two things that I think the wisdom of age has helped me understand. One is that my knee-jerk reaction to new technology is always overly optimistic because I am generally optimistic about technology. And two, people don't always do what you think they're going to do. That's my, you know, as I've gotten older, I sort of, you know, got there. So yeah, I don't think we're storytellers are out of business in any way, never have. But I do think that this is a brilliant and exciting time, and I cannot thank you enough for being here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Philippe Krakowsky, CEO of Interpublic Group.